Julie, we're so glad you're on campus today to talk about organizing and designing our spaces.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Heidi. As Heidi said, my name is Julie Watkins, and I went to Meredith from 2003 to 2007, go odds. And so I spent a lot of time in the residence halls and just getting a feel for the space, started coming up with some cool tricks and ideas to make those spaces more functional and also appear larger. After I left Meredith in 2007, I did pursue my career. I am a practicing interior designer in my own company. So it's neat to kind of come back now here on campus and share my knowledge with you. And I'm also even teaching a course at Meredith in the interior design program last semester and this semester as well.
Well, that is so cool.
Yeah, what about you, Heidi? What do you do around here?
Well, I'm the director of Residence Life, and it's so great to have you on campus. Here we are in a small space, and I know you're going to give us some advice on organizing and decorating. So what's some of your favorite tips?
Right, so the most important rule in all design is form follows function. And that just basically means that it could be super cool, but if it doesn't work, it's useless. You might as well just burn it. That's what I tell people. Form follows function. So you really have to think through the function before you think about the form, before you think about what it actually looks like in the space. It actually has to serve a purpose, and that's super important in these really small spaces. If something doesn't have a function, it's trash. It's got to go because you only have about 10 feet by 12 feet that you're working with. So everything that hits the floor has to have a purpose, or it's just going to be in the way and it's not going to serve any purpose, especially for design. And so the very first trick or tips that I give people with form follows function is to just find multi-purpose pieces, kind of like my cart here. You can put anything you want to on this. I've seen people make it into a nightstand. I've seen people just turn it into like having their workstation here with their laptop and books and things like that. Here we have some dishes. You can put anything on this cart. So something like this would follow that rule. It's functional, and then you can think about the form. Then I can think about, okay, what color do I want it? What do I want it to look like? Do I want to put some tape on it, or personalize it in some way? So just having those multi-purpose pieces is super important. And there's actually some examples in the closet that we can show you as well. So let me head it over here and kind of show you some things I brought. So this is a typical size closet that you're going to have in any small space. And it's done a really great job of doing that form follows function in terms of everything in here serves more than one function, and then just allows you to have more space. So obviously you can get these hanging drawer units in multiple sizes that you can put lots of things in, from towels to books to just really whatever you need. They also make these that increase or almost double the size of hanging ability in the closet. So anything like this feature just to maximize that vertical space that you're going to have in a small closet like this. I also like these plastic drawer solutions. These actually stack, but they also make some that don't stack but have 3 to 4 drawers. Those are perfect, and they travel with you year after year after year. I still even have some that I bought in college in my own home. And then up top, you can really think through, this is where you could get more totes and more pieces, and really just think through, okay, how can I maximize the functionality of this space up here? Obviously you can have a couple little bins and things that you could easily kind of pull down and use as needed, but you're really going to want to think through your closet and what all you need, and making sure it's all going to kind of fit and work when you're in there. Another important space in any small space that is typically forgotten or wasted is behind the doors. So when we were talking about, putting things under the bed or over furniture, another key place is to really utilize the space behind a door. You can see in this example, they've put a little weekly chart or something on there, but I could see you doing cork boards, other things here as well, just to keep track of your life. Also over here, I could see you hanging a shoe rack, and you can put hundreds of things in there, from cleaning supplies to art supplies, so whatever you need that's going to fit in a tiny little space that a shoe would fit in. They're not just for shoes. So really with small spaces like this, you really have to use the creative side of your brain and think through, okay, what do I have? What do I need? And where could it fit? And just really think through, okay, what could fit here? Even though, I'm putting a shoe rack that's supposed to be for shoes, it could be for something else. What could I see myself putting in this organizational piece, whatever it might be? So So in addition to those multi-purpose pieces, you also want to think through the parts of the room that are otherwise wasted. So that's where I think about the under the bed, over the tops of furniture pieces, especially these permanent furniture pieces that you can't really move around. You want to maximize every single square inch of space that you can. And usually that's through organization. It's totes, that can go under or above, but really just thinking through, especially if the bed is not mobile as this one is, of how can I get stuff under there? How can I really utilize the otherwise wasted space? So that's a biggie.
Yeah, and every year students ask me, like, what size container fits on those bookshelves?
Right.
And
right,
so I'm really
right.
glad you're kind of saying, the form follows function, and that they could really fill the space with useful items versus things that
Right.
are pretty but don't have a purpose.
Exactly. And I would limit the pretty things to just one or two pieces, maybe some photographs, but I wouldn't fill an entire shelf with just pretty things. I would really think through the function of that. Like you said, getting some bins, getting some pieces that just better help you organize and use every single square inch of that space. Another thing I love to use is just using easy tools. So these command hooks are amazing. You can hang anything with them. So command hooks are perfect. I used to always use tension rods. You can put them inside closets. You can put them inside little window openings. You could even put one inside here and then hang things on the tension rods. And then you're not putting holes in the walls or in the furniture or things like that. And then another one that I saw on a website is a collapsing hanger. So you hang up all your clothes and then it goes like this, and so it saves a lot of space. So yeah, just doing a lot of research ahead of time.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of times I encourage students to actually go to look at what's available.
Right.
And then they'll get an idea. They think they want something, and then they find something that might suit their needs better.
Right.
You're showing us this cart. What colors does that come in? Because that's a great size.
Right.
I want one of those, but does it come in blue or does it come in pink?
Right.
On move-in day, all the rooms are full of packages and new items from the shopping, and then sometimes students are like, oh, this doesn't fit.
Right.
And so the other thing we like to say is to let your room kind of grow with you.
Especially as you're transitioning through life, you don't really know what's going to work until you can actually see it and touch it and start to work with it.
Bring some essentials, and then you'll even as you're living in the space, you'll realize, oh, I could use a rolling cart.
Exactly.
Oh, I could use a bin, where before you wouldn't even know that you needed it until you lived in the space.
Exactly. And usually when people shop that way, they're thinking about not the function, but the form. They're seeing like this beautiful layout in a store of everything matches and everything's beautiful, and then you get it in the space and it doesn't work. So that's genius. Pack some essentials to get you started, and then spend a few weeks in the space, and then see where the pockets are, is what I call them, of like where I need something that's not working.
I never thought about using like the word pockets. Like yes, the pockets of space that you could fill.
Right.
That's awesome. That's a great tip.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They also make sheets I've been looking at that have little pockets in the side. I went off pockets there, but where you could put your iPad or notebook, whatever that's built into the sheet. So people are getting really smart with the form follows function and being multi-purposeful with the things that you're buying and using.
Well, those have been such great tips, and I'm even going to take a lot home for myself, so thank you so much. But we're also here for decorating, so what tips and advice do you have for decorating a small space?
Yeah, so my number one tip when people are in a small space, whether it be a residence hall or just an apartment or really any room in your home that feels small, is to think about vertical height. And so for in a room like this, there's a window over here. I would say take your drapes from the floor all the way up to the ceiling. Don't even stop where the window stops, but take it taller. So if you can just keep thinking of, okay, how can I make this taller? That's really going to lengthen the space and just make it feel taller in the space. So that's one. Another way, even with hanging posters and pictures and things on the wall, think about getting ones that are oriented vertically versus horizontally. We love both types of line, but vertical line is the one we really want to use when we're in small spaces, just to, once again, lengthen those walls, lengthen where your eye travels, and it really makes the room feel much more open and grand than a small space.
Okay.
Another one is color. Color's a biggie, and most people, this is where they make the most mistakes is just going crazy with color. So in a small space, you really want to keep the big furniture items, the walls, the floors, any large space in the room needs to be really light in color and really neutral in color, because you don't want your eye to pay attention to it. It needs to almost disappear in the background. And that just helps those walls and things push away from you a little bit and make that space feel larger. But you do want to have color, right? We all love color. Even looking at this bedspread, I mean, it's fantastic. We love color. So my suggestion there is just to do just one area have a lot of color. And I think they've done a good job that in here of having the neutral walls, the fun pop of color on the bedding, but then once again we go back to neutral over here. So if you're going to go loud, you can just do so in a smaller space. But you could even keep this more neutral and just have a few fun pillows on it. So try not to go too loud and too crazy, even if that's your personality. Because then the small pieces that do have a lot of color and a lot of pattern will stick out more, and even express yourself more by doing less. That's another rule of thumb I use, is less is more. Less is always more, especially in a small space like the one we're in. And my last little tip is just accessorizing. So you want to have a couple things that make you smile, that make you get up in the morning and say, oh, I like that, but only a couple. I would keep that at a minimum. Once again, as we were talking about with form follows function, you don't want to fill up all of these shelves with just fun, happy things. Have a couple. And then everything else should be really functional for you and your space. But definitely have a couple things. I mean, people usually gravitate towards maybe a fun picture, a fun piece of art, maybe a cool wall print, and that's it. I wouldn't go too crazy when it comes to decorative items.
So accessorize a little bit more minimally.
Yes.
But you can have your pops of color from here and there.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Less is more. Awesome. That's great.
Yeah. But if you're watching this and this really excites you, like it does me, then you should definitely check out the interior design program here at Meredith. It's the best around, and I'm not just saying that because I went here, but because it actually is. So definitely come over to Martin Hall and meet me and anyone else there, and we can kind of point you in the right direction.
That's awesome. Well, Julie, I really can't thank you enough. This is such great information, and it really answers a lot of questions that we get in residence life every summer about what students should bring and the sizes, and I'm definitely going to remember the form follows function as we're talking to students and inspiring them what to bring, and let's minimize the accessories and let your room evolve, which I think is even more important, and really kind of talks to a lot of what you were already saying. So
absolutely, yeah. Thanks for having me. This has been so much fun.
And I have to leave you with a Heidi's hip tip. And mine is to use see-through containers because they're easy to see what's inside. And so I use them for a variety of things. You can make a kit for your school supplies. Another kit that I like to use is for your health and beauty aids. You can have a small supply of things that you need without having to have a big bulky package. And the last one, don't forget to bring leftovers from home. And that's Heidi's hip tip.